Welcome to this Tutor to You AQA A-Level Sociology Paper 2 walkthrough video on culture and identity. In this video we're going to show you how to answer a 10-mark outline and explain question on consumption and class identity. The 10-mark outline and explain questions are a very specific type of question that only appear on paper 2. These reflect how a factor from one part of the specification will impact on another part of the specification. And students have to answer these with 2 extended paragraphs, each paragraph looking at one reason or way in which a part of the specification will impact on another part. The main skill that students are using here is the skill of analysis, and there is no requirement for them to evaluate in these type of questions. The question we're going to look at is outline and explain 2 ways that consumer culture may shape how people express their class identity. And this is taking information from the specification point on consumption and consumerism and applying it to the topic of class identity. What students need to do is explain how consumerism can help shape the identity of different social classes, that is the underclass, working class, middle class and upper classes. And this can be developed in a number of different ways. What students need to do in this type of question is show how the cause, that is consumerism and consumer culture, link to the effect, how it shapes class identity. And there are numerous ways in which this can be done. Firstly, we can talk about the concept of conspicuous consumption. The idea that people purchase goods to show their status within society. We can link this in to the concepts of Pierre Bourdieu and cultural capital, and how different social classes will have different tastes, likes and attributes, often purchasing goods to reflect those tastes and attributes. This can link in to consumption being part of the individual's habitus. They purchase goods that reflect their class identity and gain status or cultural capital from others for the consumer goods that they have, which fit in with that habitus. Another way in which we can do this is talk about the construction of identity. So in many ways we're starting with class identity and showing how it is impacted by consumption. We can suggest that there is actually a declining influence of things like income and occupation within class identity. And this is a postmodern idea of the declining influence of social class in the formation of our identity. However, our class identity is still drawn from different factors. For example, Skeggs looked at the way in which working class female cultures developed, and the way in which women would purchase goods that reflected their status in society and shy away from those that were seen as being of low value or lower class status, which helps shape their class identity through showing what Skeggs argues is being a respectable nature through their consumption patterns and not purchasing cheap or mass-produced goods to show that they are part of the middle rather than working classes. Let's look at how we do this in practice. Now, our student here has identified a way in which consumer culture shapes how people express their class identity as being through conspicuous consumption. The next stage would be to explain what is meant by conspicuous consumption. This concept refers to individuals displaying their wealth and status through the goods and services that they purchase. So individuals are using consumption to show their status, and we can link these in with the ideas of Bourdieu. In a consumer society, individuals may use branded clothing, luxury cars or expensive technology to signal a middle or upper class identity. According to Bourdieu, different classes develop distinct tastes and forms of cultural capital, which they express through consumption. Now we need to link this to class identity. And we've done this by using an example. For example, the upper classes might express their class identity through appreciation of high culture, such as attending the opera or buying artwork, whereas working class people may be more associated with mass or popular culture. We develop this further by talking about how Bourdieu called these differences habitus, meaning deeply embedded class-based preferences and behaviours that are often unconsciously performed. This includes consumer choices, which therefore become a way to maintain or signal class boundaries, even in a society that may appear to be more individualistic and meritocratic. A second way consumer culture shapes class identity is through the pressure to perform or construct identities using goods and services, and this is more of a postmodern idea that can be linked with the likes of Strinati. Postmodernists argue that in late modern societies, traditional markers of class, such as occupation or income, have become less visible, and people increasingly use lifestyle and consumption to define themselves. And this process can be seen how people curate their appearance or social media profiles using consumer goods, for example, haul videos. Now we're going to link it into Skegg's work, who found that working class women often try to distance themselves from negative class stereotypes by adopting particular styles and practices to appear respectable. She also noted that access to these consumer goods is not equal, and working class people may experience what she called symbolic violence, being judged for having the wrong tastes or lacking the resources to participate fully in consumer culture. And this shows how consumer culture both enables expression of class identity and reinforces class inequalities. So we can see from the last line we've applied this idea of consumption and consumerism all the way back to class identities. For our exam gold, we can look at the idea that class identity can take many different forms. And a good way to show analysis of class identity is by comparing and contrasting the experiences of different social classes. This helps students to show a deeper understanding of the topic area of class identity, and can also be used in things like ethnic identity and gender identity as well. That concludes this Tutor to You AQA A-Level Sociology Paper 2 walkthrough video on culture and identity, looking at the 10-mark outline and explain question on consumption and class identity. Thanks for watching.